and welcome to Season 4 of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. As always, I'm your host, Kelby Bachman, and please welcome the next guest on the show, Sparty Chino. So Sparty is from Wheaton, Illinois, and wrestled for Wheaton Warrenville South High School. He placed 5th as both a sophomore and junior before becoming the school's first state champion his senior year. Sparty went on to wrestle for Ohio University, where he was a 4-time NCAA qualifier, making the bloodround his junior season. For the last 9 years, Sparty has been an assistant coach at Marmion Academy in Aurora, Illinois. And last month, he helped them to their first team state title in school history. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy Sparty Chino. In the heart of West Union, Iowa, lies a hidden gem in Euphoria Coffee. Owned by local residents Nicole and Shane Havenstreit, they source everything they can from local vendors. From hot and iced drinks, to savory breakfast burritos, to baked goods, to botany tea, and even homemade waffles, Euphoria Coffee is a place your entire family can enjoy. You can find more information at drinkeuphoria.coffee2go.com or visit their Facebook page. And we also have a special gift just for you. Next time you stop in, you can get a free baked good with a $20 purchase. Just mention the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Euphoria Coffee. Our purpose is deeper than coffee.
My first official visit was to Nebraska.
Really?
Yeah. That was actually one of the first programs that was reaching out to me. Mark Manning reached out, I think, after Fargo, maybe my junior year. And I went to an official out there. And I mean, I love that program. Brian Snyder was there still. Like, that was like JB was 2010. So it was like JB's like 6th year. And I mean, I was just blown away by the place. It was incredible. And they're rebuilding their whole wrestling room. Like, the program was awesome. But I mean, for me, I ended up going to Ohio, and like Greenlee was just a guy that was pretty impossible to say no to. But
really?
Yeah.
What made him impossible to say no to? Especially when you have Nebraska. I mean, obviously Ohio has, a good wrestling program in and of itself, but you got kind of Nebraska, Big Ten. Well, I think they were the Big 12 at the time. Calling, like that, and it's kind of enticing. But
I think for me, like, there's 3 big programs that it came down to. So it was U of I, Nebraska, and then Ohio. And Nebraska, like, they came out right away. And I mean, I loved Manning. I mean, I remember he took me to his house, like, met his kids, saw the program, hung out with the guys. It was pretty solid. And then U of I was like, I was the massive Mike Poeta fan. Like, just growing up, I just loved watching Mike Poeta wrestle. So, like, having that block eye was something that I always thought. Ohio was never really, I mean, I never knew what, like, the MAC was. I didn't know what Ohio University was. I had a couple buddies that I knew from, like, growing up in club that wrestled out there. So I kind of just took an official out there to hang out with my friends, like, really realistically, right? And the thing that, like, kind of separated, like, Hef was great, Manning was great, but I think there was, like, a little bit of intimidation for me going to wrestle in the Big Ten right away. I mean, I was a 1-time state champion in high school. I was a, just kind of like your regular average run-of-the-mill wrestler. And I don't know if it's necessarily true, but, like, those guys, they can really get whomever they want. And, like, it ended up working out pretty good for Nebraska. They got James Green, and then they ended up getting Imar, right? So 2 pretty rock star studs, to where the thing that sold me on Greenlee was just the amount of time that he put into me, like, in regards to the recruiting process. He obviously took me out on an official, but then, I actually called him, like, it was like Easter weekend, and I was like, hey, I'm going to go to the University of Illinois. And, like, the offer that I got from Ohio was better than anywhere else, but I was going to go wrestle at Illinois just because, again, like, grew up, loved Mike Poeta. Jordan Blanton was my host, and I like idolized Jordan when he was in high school as well. So like it just made the most sense. But the thing with Greenlee was he's like, all right, no problem. But hey, before you make that decision, what are you doing on Wednesday? And I was like, nothing, I'll just be in school. So he drove down to Wheaton, Illinois, and pulled me out of school for about an hour, met in my principal's conference room, kind of talked to me about, the program, like about the like rescinded offer that he made, came to my parents' house for dinner for like 3 hours, laid out just a crazy like opportunity for me, and like getting my bachelor's degree, getting a master's degree, and then also just talked to me about like the one-on-one work that I would get there. And he left my house, and my dad was like, how do you say no to that guy? Like the other coaches, like they definitely recruited me, right? But no one came, did a home visit. No one, and this was before like home visits were like a huge thing, right? So yeah, it was pretty special, and definitely happy with the decision.
How far of a drive was it for Greenlee?
Probably 7.5 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, and he just came to see me. Like he just drove out to Wheaton, saw me, and then drove right back. So it was pretty special.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you say no to that? I mean, how difficult was it? I mean, even after all that, you still have this, affinity for Illinois that, you grew up, you have these idols. I was told that one of your biggest idols was Jordan Blanton, so, even with all that going, you still chose the path to, like that had to be a tough pill to maybe not swallow, but just a tough choice to make,
I know it was tough for my parents, right? Like my parents wanted me to go to Illinois, like more than anything in the world. But I felt like there was an opportunity at Ohio. We had a group of young guys that came in and kind of reshaped that program. Like my senior year, we ended up having 7 NCAA qualifiers. And we had like me, Cody Walters, Phil Wellington. We were all 4-time NCAA qualifiers. Cody ended up being 2-time All-American. And I felt like we took it on ourselves that we had the ability to create something, whereas some of those other programs were a little bit more established. So I was very fortunate to kind of meet a lot of like-minded guys, both young guys that we came in and we're like, all right, we're just going to go battle for some varsity spots, and we're going to take this program and make it our program. And for the most part, I think we did a pretty good job of doing that.
I would say. So I actually talked to Cody Walters for the podcast. So this is going to be kind of fun to talk to back-to-back Ohio guys.
Sure.
So yeah, your team was like really, man, there was you, Cody, Phil Wellington, Taiwan Claxton.
Yep.
I think was Shakur Laney a freshman, or he was really young by the time you guys were graduating, but
yeah, Shakur and Cam Kelly, they were true freshmen our 5th year. And they were both multiple NCAA qualifiers.
Hightower.
Yep. Harry was a Ohio legend, 3-time state champ, University School. Then came out, was a 2-time NCAA qualifier for us. Andrew Romanchik out of Padua.
Yeah, that's the guy I was thinking of. I forgot of.
Andrew was a 2-time NCAA qualifier at 184. Had win over Drew Foster as well, and he was maybe a $175. But we just had studs in that lineup from 49 up to heavyweight, right? Like a Jeremy Johnson there, 2-time All-American. And Andrew found his spot at 184. And I mean, didn't only find a spot, but dominated at that spot. Had a lot of like top 15, like top 10 wins. Just an absolute stud.
Yeah. And, he might have been able to, well, no, Hightower was at 65. Yeah. I mean, I was going to say maybe if Walters didn't like food so much, he could have went down to 65, but
yeah, like even then after Harry graduated, right. Like we refilled him with Austin Reese, who his career was cut short due to some heart issues, but he was a phenom in and of his own right. He was a 4-time state placer at Mechanicsburg, state champ there, Ironman placer, NCAA qualifier right out the rip his freshman year. So like we had a really good thing rolling there for about 5-6 years.
Yeah. What made it like what? I guess my question is, what made you guys get it rolling? Because Ohio wasn't this, it seems like you guys came in and as a group, you guys put Ohio wrestling, or Ohio University. Not that it hadn't been on the map, but I mean, you really brought it to more of a national scale.
Yeah, I think we had all the pieces there in regards to the coaching staff. All right out the gate, we had Quincy Osborne, who was a D3 national champ at Augsburg, spent some time wrestling for the Gophers as well. Now he's a head coach at Concordia, so he's doing a great job. Kyle Hansen, two-time NCAA All-American. If you look at some of his NCAA brackets, see some of the legends that he wrestled like. And then you got Joel, who's a national runner-up to six-time national champ, Carlton Hasselrig, right? Like you got guys that are just like absolute studs leading the program. And prior to us, like Jermaine Lindsay was a All-American his junior year, had like a war of a match with Montel Marion down at the NCAA. So like the pieces were definitely there. I think it was just more so getting just that one solid recruiting class in. And I think it's a testament to the coaching staff. They did just such a good job of piling in those recruits that year to where like when scholarship money became available, they were able to just load in the pieces at the right weights, and we were able to hit the ground running, I should say. But I'd say like, that like mindset, like super competitive, bunch of alpha males that were able to build off one another. And how I think the big thing with our group was the accountability piece. Like there were no egos there. It was all like, hey, you're going to do this for the betterment of the team. And like, there's sometimes like you were banged up, you were hurt, like kind of guilt one another and like, you're going to miss out. Like, you're not going to do this. Like, you're not going to do this run, or you're not going to go to this practice, or you're going to miss this meet. And, Joel kind of just was there to steer the ship if we ever got too off track, but we did a really good job of holding one another accountable. And it helped that we ended up becoming like lifelong best friends as well. So definitely an added bonus.
Yeah, the pieces like there was always a piece or two there, but like you said, the recruiting class that you guys came in with really as a whole rounded out the team. Like you said, 7 qualifiers. I think one year you had 12 and a half points as a team, which, when you say that out loud, some people might scoff at that. But I mean, for a university like Ohio to put 7 guys in the national tournament and everyone's winning matches, making the round of 12, like knocking on the door of All-American status, like that's just that's not something you see every year, but you guys made it every year like that. Everyone was kind of right there chipping away, and sometimes you fell short and sometimes you didn't, but
Yeah, I think strength of schedule was also something too that just kind of elevated the competition. Like the Mid-American Conference when I was in college was always like the second or third toughest conference in the country. Yeah. You had Old Dominion, Northern Iowa, Mizzou, on top of like Kent State, who was tough team. They had Mac McGuire, Ian Miller, Sam Wheeler out there. You have Central Michigan, which Borelli just always brought like a top 20 team to the fold. Eastern Michigan was doing a really good job. Ludwig did a good job having like round of 12ers, multiple national qualifiers. So like, just I think that strength of schedule in conference alone was really tough. And then obviously you had the 3 external factors of the ODU, the UNI, and Mizzou. Like Mizzou, a top 5 program, it's going to just elevate the game. And then Joel, I mean, just loaded us up with a tough schedule. We're always wrestling at the Scuffle, always wrestling at the Midlands. And that's when the Scuffle was like the hardest tournament in the country, right? You had, and I think for us, it kind of early on, it helped us know like, hey, like we belong here. Like I was wrestling in the like Concy semis at the Southern Scuffle my freshman year against Alex Ehringer. And then the mat next to me, I got David Taylor wrestling Tyler Caldwell. And then you got Kyle Dake over there on another mat. And like you're wrestling right next to these guys that you're watching on TV a week or like a year prior. And you're just going, hey, I do belong here. I don't really need to take a back seat. And I think Joel just did such a good job instilling that confidence in us through the schedule and, just putting us in that position to win.
When did you finally have that confidence in yourself, or did you always have that? Because it's one thing for the coach to tell you and try to put it in your ear, but it's a whole nother thing for you to actually start believing it,
Yeah, I'd say that was probably my biggest internal battle my entire career, right? Never really had it consistently. There are days that like, I think that's one of the challenges of college wrestling is, for me, I always took it personal in the sense of Joel and my family had invested so much time into me. My teammates had put so much time into me that there's sometimes there was like paralysis because you put all this undue pressure on yourself to succeed that like I think my career, I had a lot of spurts to where I felt unstoppable when I was wrestling. And then like some of that success would yield those unruly nerves that would really just kind of paralyze me. So it's a good question, but I don't really have a great answer because I think for me that was the biggest thing I struggled through is I made the moment much bigger than it was sometimes, and then other times when I'd wrestle free, I'd go on runs and beat some really really tough kids.
Yeah, Cody was telling me the story. So you guys were, it was your freshman year, your redshirt freshman year, and you were going to the scuffle, and the brackets came out, and he had Ed Ruth first round, and you
Yeah,
had Kyle Dake, and he was like, I don't know if I want to go.
yeah. I mean, I remember we looked at the brackets, came out a week early, and like they're smart for not doing that anymore, but they let it out, and we come up to Joel and we're like, Coach, we don't have gas money, we don't have this, we don't have that. And then like we ended up getting situated to where we had one of our graduate assistants, Seth Morton at the time. He was like, hey, I'm driving down there. You guys can just drive with me. And we're like, okay, but like we can't get, we're just like making stuff up not to get beat up. And then Seth's like, oh, don't worry, guys. Like I got a hotel room with 2 beds in there. You and Cody can share it. Me and Cody are just sitting there. And then Greeny's like, hey, well, the team's going to have some food. Like you can eat the food there. You guys don't have to worry about food. But like, do you think you guys can spot the $30 entry fee? And me and Cody are just like, because this is back when like red shirts, you had to travel everything yourself. So they kind of had gotten around and had Seth set everything up for us, so we couldn't say no. And honestly, it was a great experience, right? I remember like obviously we get throttled round 1 by Ed Ruth and Kyle Dake, but like to wrestle at that tournament, like at that time, what that scuffle tournament was, built a lot of confidence. I think I ended up like losing in the round of place there, but I beat like I think a national qualifier there, and I'm like, oh wait, hold on a second, I think I can do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what he said. He kind of went. He said Cody went 0-2, but you strung a few matches together there, and so again, one of those things that you were talking about earlier about confidence and seeing that you belong, and especially when you're that young, fresh out of high school, and you're at the time,
Yeah.
the tournament,
Yeah, I mean, when you're in high school and you're on top of the world, right? Like you win a state title, or you're doing well at Fargo or the junior duels or whatever tournament you're wrestling at, right? Like, you kind of have an unrealistic expectation of what college is. You're, oh, I'm going to be a 4-time All-American. I'm going to be a national champ. And then nothing's as humbling as when you spend your first week or 2 inside the college wrestling room and you're struggling to just like not get an attack, but you're struggling to get in on a leg, period, right? Because it's just a different game. And that can definitely crush your confidence at first. So I was fortunate. I had a coach like Quincy Osborne to get my mind right and bounce me back my first 2 years. He ended up leaving to go to Buffalo for another assistant opportunity after my freshman year, but definitely credit a lot of early success I had due to him kind of being like, yo, you belong here. And like he was a really good like mentor for me, because I think the biggest thing you want to know as an athlete, and why I coach, is you want to let the kids know, like, hey, you're not alone with these thoughts. In wrestling, you have this whole persona that you got to be this big, tough guy, and you can't like show any fear. But I feel like the moments that I had like the most success was when I like accepted that, hey, fear exists, but it's okay. Like at the end of the day, like I'm still going to come back, and I'm going to be strong. Like, regardless of if I win or if I lose, like life will continue. My family, my coaches, my friends, like my wife now, like they're all going to love me. But you can really struggle with that as a kid when like in that moment, that is the biggest moment. And like, who's someone to tell you that it's not? Because like, that's the biggest thing you've ever had in your life at that point. We just finished up our state tournament this past week. And like for those kids, like it's the biggest weekend of their life. And you kind of, as a coach, I think the good ones, they do a good job of like putting everything in perspective, and like instead of avoiding the conversation of fear or like, no, you're tough, you're good, like talk through it. Like, hey, like what are you afraid of? So a little bit of a tangent there, but yeah, I mean that was like the definitely some glimpses in college to like, hey, like you do belong here. But I think in the moment it's hard to have that wide view perspective. You're just so focused on today, this match, this result, that it can definitely make things a little over exaggerated, you know?
Yeah. And I think, everyone can relate to that because when you're looking back and as you mature and you look back and you're 30, 35, whatever, however old you
Yeah,
are, you can look back and say, gosh, that wasn't a big deal. That
sure.
wasn't as big a deal as X, as my child being born or as
Yeah,
this, other event that has happened. But like you're saying, in that moment, when you're 18, 19, 17, whatever, that is like the biggest moment of your life at that point, or
mm-hmm.
you make it seem like it is. And
Sure.
so did you talk to anybody, like, because that can be hard to try to find somebody to talk to about that, because like you're saying, you want to be big and tough and you don't want to talk about it. And
Mm-hmm.
um so were you able to find comfort in somebody?
Yeah, I think for me, I probably like towards the end of my career in college, I really was able to kind of find comfort in like Phil Wellington was like probably my biggest bore. I remember I had Joe LaValle at the MAC tournament round one. Tough first round draw.
Yes.
I ended up losing to Joe. And I remember my junior year was a year just full of ups and downs where I had guys that were like top 10 in the country that I was beating up until the last like 30 seconds. And I would just find ways to lose these matches, right? And I remember I was sitting there after that match, and I'm kind of just like off to the side of the field house. And I just look at Phil and I go, you know what? There's Phil and there's Harry Hightower. I look at them, I go, who cares? Whatever, guys, right? Like win or lose, like it's all gonna work out. Like I can't keep doing this to myself to where I'm like going out there so afraid to lose that like what just happened? I lost anyways. And my friends, I think like at first they were kind of like, yo, Sparty, you're gonna be okay. But like it was a freeing thing to just like say my fear, right? Like to say what it was I was afraid of and put it out in the open instead of so much of my career I spent, you're afraid. I'm like, no, you're not afraid. You're not afraid. Trying to like suppress it down to where it would just like erupt. And then I remember like after I said that, I felt good. I went on a tear. Like wrestled back, took third at the max, went on a pretty good run at NCAA's. Ended up losing like a 1 point match in the round of 12. But like that's probably the most free that I ever wrestled in my college career. And like the big thing that I did like that whole run was just talk to Phil. And I was like, hey man, like I'm feeling nervous here. I'm a little afraid. He's like, it's all right, man. Like it's all good. Like I'm gonna be here for you no matter what. Um, and that helped me a lot. I think for me, my folks, like so many other wrestling, kids, like my folks did a lot. They sacrificed a lot. So my parents, they came here as political refugees from Albania in '91, and they worked like dogs for the last 30 years to provide a life for me and my brother and my sister. And they have like just this stone cold mindset of just work, 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 and like good things will happen to where it can be hard to show that weakness to them at times. And obviously like as I've become a father, like I realize that like you're always going to like be there for your kids. But again, in that moment, right? Like I always wanted my parents to be proud, and I never wanted them to know like I was afraid or that like I didn't have confidence in myself, because like God bless them, they're always going to try to fix it for me, even when there's nothing that they can do. Like it's just who they are. So I would keep a lot of stuff from them on like my doubt or my anxiety towards competing, that it's terrible when like your mom and dad ask you how you're doing and you're like, no, I'm doing good, but like deep down like you're really struggling with those nerves, or like hey, I'm good, I just want you to love me and I want you to support me even if I lose this match. Like you don't really feel confident saying that, because then that's going to get them on a whole other worry wart when like I'm already worried enough. So um, definitely one of those things that like you look back on and you think, what if, but like then you just kind of take it back in retrospect and go like, hey, is what it is. And I think I do a better job of it now with both work and with coaching. Like, hey, this is what it is. Like, what are we going to do to come back? Things didn't go your way. And I think some of the best wrestlers that you see out there today, like they just figure that out from a young age. They just understand that like there's no need for me to put this undue pressure on myself. Like everyone wants to win. Everyone's afraid to lose. But instead of what happens after I lose, like why not just think about, hey, what can I do in this moment to get the best possible outcome?
Mm-hmm. When you were talking about your parents there, I felt almost like I was listening to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from them being political refugees from
Yeah,
Albania,
yeah,
my
sure.
parents, though, they grew up and they worked. My mom worked on a farm, and my dad's dad, so my grandfather is a pretty stern man, and so was his dad, and so like it's been a they're pretty stern, I guess is what trying to say. So telling them these feelings that I would have, because I'm a very feeling guy. Okay. I get a lot of
Yeah,
emotions, and wrestling was one that challenged that a lot. I got competition anxiety, I guess is what they'll probably call it nowadays.
sure.
And it was very difficult to talk to them because, you know, they at the time didn't understand or wasn't able to at that time to understand what I was feeling and talk through it because they just worked hard, move on, put your head
Right.
down. And so, wow, yeah. It was like I said, it was like I was listening to myself a little bit there. But to go back to your childhood then, so they came over from Albania
Yep.
and you were what age?
So they came over like end of 91. I was born in 93. So my brother
Okay.
was like 4 years old at the time. So we kind of grew up in the townhouse. My dad worked two jobs, right? So he would work as a custodian at nighttime. And then like during the day, so when he was in Albania as a kid, right? Like he went to school up until, like middle schoolish. And then
Mhm.
they just took him out to the woods. And like from the time he was like maybe 12 years old to 18, he was just cutting trees in the woods. And then he ends up joining the Albanian army, but like that was his communist trade, right? Was cutting down trees. So what he did was when he came to the States, he worked as like a bus boy, worked in the back of a kitchen, worked as a custodian, like majority of it. But in the interim, what he would do is he'd go to school and like kind of build on, and by school, I mean like a trade school to learn some things for tree service. And he ended up building a small tree service company with my mom. And like his main workers at first were just my mom, my brother, and him. And he would do like small, odd jobs, and continued to build. Now he's got like a big team that he has under him, but it was like 30 plus years in the making. But from
Sheesh.
like from my childhood, I would see my dad. He would go cut down trees in the morning, and then around 2 o'clock, he'd come home, shower up, get a meal, kiss my mom goodbye, and then he'd uh, go to the school, and he'd work as a custodian there.
Wow.
And that was what I saw from him. That my mom would like help him during the day, and then in the afternoon, like she would shuttle us to practices. Like my brother wrestled, my sister did competitive gymnastics. I played football, I wrestled, and like it was everything. So the thing from my parents I saw early was just like everything was about the family. Like there's no problem with this, right? But like while other moms and dads were going to hang out, go to happy hours, go hang out with the neighbors, like everything that my mom and dad did was for us. Like I've never seen my parents go out on a date ever. Right? There's no date night. It's always like, what can we do and like they love each other more than anything in the world, right? But
Mhm.
like it was always kids first. What can we do to help them? So when you see that, and it kind of gets you back to like why I chose Ohio, right? Like I had a fantastic scholarship opportunity. And like from a young age, I always told myself like the sacrifice that these two have put in, like I'm gonna give back. So like wherever I can get like the best opportunity, that's where I'm gonna go after. And Joel was able to provide that, and I was able to, go to school relatively debt free and get both my
Wow.
bachelor's and my MBA. So that was like, again, it just goes back to my parents. You see how they work, and I was like, I got to find a way to somewhat repay. I mean, I can never repay everything that they've done, but that was growing up. So growing up with them, like very serious. Like my dad's like a very stern guy. My mom, she's stern, but like she'll kind of let off the edge a little bit. And then you got like me and my brother who are just like the farthest thing from like stern. You know what I mean? We're just so boisterous, so out there. Like I think that's just kind of what happens when you you live in a household to where like it's so discipline oriented, like you get out of it and you're like, all right, let's go.
That's funny. Yeah. Did your parents settle right away in Wheaton, or how did you end up
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
area?
So my great uncle, he came here in like the late 60s, and he was like the first Chino here, and he worked at Wheaton College. And he kind of like put the roots down, had his two sons. Got married out here, had his two sons, and he kind of like one by one was like helping us all get on their feet. So we lived with him for 6 months. Then my folks got an apartment, saved up money over 2 years. We're able to buy a townhouse. So that's kind of how it all started.
And then how did sports become, a part of your family? Like, did your parents do it, or your father? It sounds like he probably didn't have that opportunity. So I'm just
no. So wrestling, like my dad, like how they wrestled in Albania, man, was they'd be a couple guys out on the streets, right, and they'd just be like, "You two go," and like, I mean, it was just bear hugs, and like you'd win by putting someone down on their back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my dad did that growing up, like that was his sport. You know what I mean? And so my brother got into wrestling when he was in middle school, but like for me, man, I was pretty uncoordinated for my first like 10 years of life. I had the same size head that I do now on like a scrawny little body, so I couldn't walk in a straight line, much less do sports. But I always tried, I always like tallied around my brother. But like my brother would go to middle school like duels or like tournaments, or even through high school. I would end up just finding myself, like my mom always tells a story that like we'd go to one of my brother's meets, and then she'd lose me for like an hour, and then I'd come back just covered in dirt. I'd be so sweaty because I'd kind of like similar to what my dad would do. I'd just go in the back. I would just find some kids and be like, all right, me and you, and we would just roll. So I didn't start wrestling until I was in 5th grade, but like I'd say from about like the age of 6 to 10, I was doing unsanctioned wrestling matches behind bleachers at my brother's meets.
So then when did you finally start getting
5th
involved?
Grade.
Okay.
Yeah, 5th grade. There was a flyer at my school, and I remember I took it home and I was like crying to my mom because I tried wrestling from like 6 to 10. She was like, "No, you can't do it." She put me in baseball. I had like one hit over 3 years, and I'm like, I came back with this flyer and I was like in tears. I was like, "Mom, if you don't do this, like I'm gonna run away." And I was just like crying my eyes out. She looks at my dad. She goes, "What is this kid? Like, what's wrong with him?" So she ended up caving. So it worked.
And that's it. That's how the legend was born.
Yeah, I don't know about legend, but that's how I started, right? And yeah, I mean, I just kind of did like the local kids club, right? Go to practice 2 days a week, go compete on a Sunday. Definitely not like how it is now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we, so I coach at Marmion Academy, and me and Nathan Fitzenreiter, he's like the associate head coach there. Him, Anthony Bosco wrestled at UNC, George Fisher wrestled at University of Michigan, and my brother, we run the Fitzenreiter Wrestling Academy. And it's just funny because we run it from like, little kids all the way up through high school. And to see like the intensity and effort that these like 10-year-old, 9-year-old, 8-year-olds put in, I'm just like, oh my God, thank God I didn't have to wrestle you when I was your age. The sport has just grown so rapidly.
Yeah. So what was the club that you wrestled for when you first got going?
So when I was like from like 5th grade to 8th grade, I just wrestled for the local high school club. It was like the Wheaton Tigers Wrestling Club. I'd just go wrestle there twice a week. And then I'd wrestle at my middle school. And like, I don't think like anyone had a winning record on our team besides like me and my friend Mark. But like Wheaton, Illinois is a pretty rich sports town. Like some really like a lot of success in like men's volleyball, men's football, but never really had all that much success in wrestling. And I was kind of like a trailblazer in my community in regards to like looking for other opportunities. Sean Bourmet had Overtime School of Wrestling out here in like the early 2000s, and my brother started to go there when he was in high school. So it was kind of only fitting. Like when I was in like 7th, 8th grade, I started going there a bit, and that's when my wrestling really started to take it up a notch. And like, no disrespect to anyone in Wheaton, right? But it was just like, you got to practice 2 days a week. And like, if you're cradling up everyone, like you're not really learning much from anyone. But when you went to overtime, man, it was a different level. Like, you got Sean Bourmet, national runner up. You got Ed Geezy, like absolute legend in Illinois, All-American at Minnesota. Kerry Bowman's like, he was like a hair away from being on the Olympic team before losing to Terry Brands. You got John Kading, 4-time All-American, national champ from Oklahoma. And like, these are the guys that are coaching you when you're like in 8th grade. You're just, one, you're afraid to do anything wrong, but then two, more importantly, you're just going to listen because like, you're in front of greatness. And that's what I did, man. I'd go in there and took a lot of beatings, but you're constantly wrestling high school state qualifiers, high school state placers, state champs. And it's kind of osmosis. You get enough of those beatings, you start to take some goodness in and learn some lessons. But I remember that drive my parents sacrificed a lot. They drive me there like anywhere from like 3 to 5 times a week to either wrestle or to lift or to do a private. And it was like a 45 minute drive, like one way.
Yeah.
And, but I remember like the drive there, like it was like you're going to the state tournament because you knew that 1, practice was going to be intense. And then 2, whoever you were going to wrestle that day was going to be an absolute savage. So you had to get your mindset right.
Yeah. When did the wrestling then turn a corner for you where you started to, maybe take off a little bit or find some good success and the confidence and all that comes with wrestling in a room like that?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of up and down, right? Like from an early age, like I was pretty solid at the sport. Like I found ways to win. I think just from like the grit that I saw from my pops, I was like, yo, you just got to find a way. But I'd say around around like the end of my freshman year, sophomore year in high school, wrestling freestyle, like being on the cadet dual teams, I really started to think that like, hey, like I might be pretty good here. I remember in my sophomore year, I took 5th in state in Illinois, and I had some confidence, but never beat like a state champion before. And I ended up wrestling this kid wrestled at U of M. His name was Brandon Kingsley, and at the time he was like the number 1 135 pounder in the country. And I ended up beating him at the cadet duels. Had some big wins over some guys that had like placed at Fargo, and that's when I started to realize like I think I can really start hanging. So credit a lot of that to the freestyle program at Overtime and like just Team Illinois in general. We took freestyle super seriously, and there was a run there from like 2010 on that like Illinois was just constantly taking the freestyle and Greco titles at all age groups.
Yeah, it was, I was looking at your brackets from state, in the one year, I think it was a sophomore year, on the backside, you got beat by somebody named Ellis Coleman.
Yeah. That was, the week before I'd wrestled Max Schneider, who was like an absolute phenom, right? He was a first-year wrestler, like judo superstar, and he came in and pinned Ellis Coleman in like the quarterfinals. And I'd wrestled Max in the sectional finals the week prior, and I'd pinned him. And I'm just sitting here. I was looking at like my opposite bracket. You're obviously going to look ahead, right? They say don't look ahead. Everyone looks ahead. And there's a kid from Neuqua Valley who wrestled at Overtime with me that I'd beaten earlier in the year named Adam Stein. He was in the semis. And there's Max, the kid that I'd handled fairly well the week prior, that was in the semis. And obviously you had Ellis Coleman, who was ranked number 1 in the country at that time, that like you kind of like penciled in like, hey, he was going to be the state champ. How high can I place?
For sure.
But then he loses, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even make it to state as a freshman. I'm like, my goodness, like I'm about to be a state champ. And then I got incredibly humbled in the state semis. I got ripped with like 2 headlocks from Kevin Fanta from Lake Zurich, who ended up winning the state title. But yeah, I definitely learned. I was focused on one match at a time. But yeah, you lose that match to Fanta in the semis, and like you're thinking about your bracket board, and Now you're like, okay, let me drop back to the consies. Oh, here we go. I got the best kid in the country. Awesome. So yeah, definitely a humbling experience.
Well, to continue on that train, then the next year as a junior, you wrestle a kid by the name of Nick Dardanes. So I mean, I Illinois, like you said, during that time, and even up until now, I mean, you could go through the brackets. I forget. I think I had Chad Bellis on, who is from Illinois, Bloomington. I looked through the brackets, and they were just stud after stud after stud after stud after, like, it was pretty remarkable, the names that went D1 and were successful, and like, holy cow.
Yeah, I think my senior year bracket, I think I had an NCAA qualifier in every match but one, right? So like first round, I had a kid named Michael Wolf. He was a he was a national qualifier at Navy, right? So I pulled him round one. Then I have
Wow.
Jake Residori in the quarters, who's an All-American at SIUE. Matt Nora was a starter at U of I, really, really solid wrestler. But then Imar came in, and no one was beating Imar.
Yeah.
And then Sean Clay McMurtry was a national qualifier and a state champ as well. But he was a national qualifier at NIU. So it's just like, and then like in that bracket, I had Nate Jackson, who's a two-time All-American.
Yeah.
I had Ricky Robertson, who I think was like a four-time national qualifier. Just studs up and down that bracket.
That's in your bracket alone. Like, I can't stress that enough. Like, that's just in your bracket. And I remember looking at that bracket, and I saw Nate Jackson. And I was like, what? I mean,
I think I was in a couple state brackets with Nate, a couple state brackets with Jake. Just some absolute hammers. And then like we were still getting hammered by other guys, right? You got Nick Dardanes, you got to wrestle in the quarters. You're like, it's gonna be a tough match.
yeah. What was it like though? I mean, going into your senior year, I just want to see what your mind was like, finishing twice, fifth both times as a junior and a sophomore. I mean, were you starting to wonder if wrestling at the next level was going to be an option, or if D1 was an option? Like, where was you? Do you remember kind of where your mind was at? Because you hadn't really gotten, quote unquote, what am I trying to say? You hadn't really achieved anything yet, even though you had obviously placing twice. So
yeah, I mean, like you definitely have that imposter syndrome, right? Like you got D1 programs that are reaching out to you, and outside of those three, like I had Schwab reach out from UNI. I had some other Mid-American Conference schools or like mid-major schools reach out, and there's some of that like why are they talking to me, right? Like I'm not a state champ. Like why are these guys? But like again, like I credit a lot of it to Bourmet at Overtime, right? Like Sean had put me in a position in the off season to where like I was beating so many good guys in freestyle that had given me that exposure. But yeah, like you put that stress on you. Like no one in my high school had ever won a state championship, and like from when I was a kid, I was like, I'm gonna be the first state champ at the school. So you can see that kind of slipping away a bit. But I'd say my senior year in high school, so again, it's one of those times throughout my career to where I just had I had utmost confidence in myself because I had put in a lot of work. Like I had put in a really, really good amount of work, and it was one of those moments I was just wrestling so free, and I was having a lot of fun out there. And what taps into it? I don't know. Maybe it's the work. I was healthy. Wasn't cutting a terrible amount of weight. So like I was really kind of just focusing in on just competing. And whereas maybe like the year past, like kind of cut an arm and a leg to make the weight, and that year I really wasn't. And I was never really a great weight cutter. I mean, I cut a lot of weight, but I don't think I necessarily did it as well as our kids do it nowadays. But yeah, it just had a lot of freedom when I was wrestling, and definitely paid the results.
Yeah, first state champ in school history. I mean,
Yeah.
How sweet was that to plan that out, when you're a kid, And then to have it come to fruition as a senior, after falling short a couple times.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like, I mean, there's definitely no discounting how special that moment was. I think, again, for me, a lot of it was, I think the moment that stands out after I won a state championship was the ability to go up into the stands and to see my mom and dad just full tears in their eyes.
Mhm.
Like there's seldom been moments where I've like had like tears of joy, and that's like maybe one of the 3 or 4 times that I've cried out of pure happiness. So
Yeah.
definitely a relief. But then I think the biggest thing I had more stress my senior year in high school on where was I going to wrestle the next year than I did on winning a state championship. But that was probably the biggest stressor that I had, because to my earlier point, right? I wanted to give back to my mom and dad, so I put a lot of that like undue stress on myself.
When did you commit?
I committed in maybe April of 2011, so like 2 months after state. So I remember going
Wow.
to the state, like I just felt confident. Again, I don't know what it was. Just I was like, I'm gonna win a state championship, and I think it's truly just the power of like that self-talk and visualization. My brother was huge on visualization with me, and just like, hey, like I remember at every practice in high school, I'd walk around, hands up in the air, like, hey, what are you gonna do after you win a state title? And every practice, I just walk around with my fingers up in the air. So I think a lot of positive visualization, but the one thing I couldn't visualize was, where am I going to wrestle next year? Like, what's that going to be? So I had a lot of sleepless nights. It's like a 17-year-old kid just thinking like, hey, what am I going to do to set myself up for the rest of my life? Some pretty heavy thoughts for like an adolescent kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Ohio was it, huh? I
Yeah. I
mean,
mean, I had so my best friend and I, we both took visits to the U of I, and Mark Savinock, he was a state runner-up at 145 right before me, and like it's like my lifelong best friend still to this day. And we were gonna originally go to U of I together and wrestle there, um, but the Joel thing, him coming over, and then he's very religious, and his family kind of pushed for him to go to Wheaton College, where he was an All-American there, and he ended up making the decision to go to Wheaton, and that kind of made things just a little bit more easy. Like, hey, like
Mhm.
my best friend's not gonna be at U of I. Like, I had this awesome opportunity from Greenlee. Like, let's go for it.
What did you end up majoring in? Did that play a role at all?
Yeah, so I think that's another thing too, like just the power of Joel. Like there's so many things that you forget about what he did for you. I remember out of all the visits, like he was the one that he took me. I majored in business, right? So I majored in business marketing, and then I got my master's in business administration and management. But like two funny stories, like right off the rip on my recruiting trip, he's like, "Oh, you're interested in business?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Here, let me introduce you to the dean of the business school." So he just set me up, and I talked to the guy for maybe like 30 minutes about his career, what the opportunities they have in the business school at OU. And I was like, wow, that was impressive. Where I didn't get that same thing at any other school. And then I remember NCAA's my junior year, I get a call from, I had like applied for the graduate program the next year. And the way that the program worked was they took a consulting trip. It was like a 3 semester program. It was like an accelerated MBA. You do 3 semesters, summer, fall, spring, and you do like a consulting trip overseas. And the consulting trip always took place the week of the NCAA tournament, or like the week of NCAA's or max. Like it was right in between. And obviously, I wouldn't be able to do that. But I had all the standings, like scored well enough on my GMAT to get in. I had great I had really good grades throughout my undergrad, and I had everything to get in. And I remember the lady called me and she's like, "Hey, just want to let you know." And I was there with Hightower. We were both at NCAA's, and Harry wasn't wrestling that next year, right? He was graduating. And they call Harry, they let him know that he got accepted in the program. And they call me and they're like, "Hey, like we just can't figure out a way for that program to work for you." And I'm just sitting here before the NCAA's devastated that I didn't get into grad school. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do next year? Like, am I going to have to transfer? Am I going to have to go somewhere else? And Joel calls the dean like 20 minutes after. I think he like writes like a scathing email, then calls the guy and he's like, "Hey, like this dude's an ambassador for the program. He's done this, this, and that. Like he'd be a great add-on." not a couple hours go by, I get a call back from like that same like admissions lady, and she goes, "Hey, just want to let you know you've been accepted to the MBA program at Ohio University." And I was like, "What happened?" And they ended up changing the entire program to where like the trip didn't happen in spring break, then it happened at the end of the year. And like, I don't know how many D1 coaches have that ability to change a whole MBA program like Joel Greenlee does.
Mm-hmm.
And then honestly, it's been a great recruiting tool for the Bobcats. They've had numerous guys after myself graduate with their undergrad and then get their MBA afterwards, all within a 5-year period that gets paid for. So,
Wow.
pretty special.
Yeah, the one thing that sticks out to me is him advocating for you, but also that you put yourself in a position to be advocated for. You know what I mean? Like, he might not have advocated for you if you hadn't done and presented yourself in all the right ways, you know.
Yeah.
So I mean, have you ever kind of thought about that you put in the time, you put in the work, you were good academically, good ambassador. I mean, he said you were a good ambassador for the program in general, you know, so all these things you did the right way led him to then advocate for you to get into the program.
Yeah, no, I guess I've never thought about that until this moment right here, right? I just did my job. I did what was expected of me from Joel, did what was expected of me from my parents. Just, it's hard for me to ever do something and not like commit myself to it. I I really struggle with like internal guilt with that stuff. So it'll keep me up at night if I know that I've like taken a shortcut or if I've done the wrong thing. So maybe, and like I'm proud of that. But like Joel Greenlee is a guy that when he gives you his word that he'll do something for you, he'll always do it. And the last thing you ever want to do is to lose that guy's trust or lose that ability for him to go out there. So, so much of my success, not only on the mat, but like professionally outside of my wrestling career, I attribute it to Joel Greenlee. I mean, that guy, to this day, like I'll still call him for things and kind of talk through like a mindset. Like he's not that, when you go there, like that's not a coach just for the 4 or 5 years you're there. That's a guy for life. And I truly mean it, man. Like he's truly just an absolute testament of what a coach should be.
Wow. And he just, what? He just 260 dual wins?
Yep.
I mean, that's a lot of dual wins. It's a lot, it's
Yeah.
a lot of wins, which I
And
know
it's
you're
just,
not, that's not what
yeah.
makes him, but just shows of what he's been able to do over the course of his career. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, sorry. I mean, he just like, I could talk about Joel forever. Just an incredibly humble guy, right? Like he's second on the Olympic ladder for years behind Bruce, right? Like best heavyweight in history. But like, if there's no Bruce, then there's Joel, right? He doesn't get an NCAA title because he loses to Carlton Hasselrig, like only 6-time NCAA champ ever, right? Like he's a guy that he always used to say, "Hey, I've always been second. Like I don't even know if I'm my wife's first choice, right?" But like just such an incredibly humble guy that like everyone who's around Joel's better for it. Like I don't know anyone who's got a bad thing to say about him. All right, he's just a fantastic dude.
Yeah. Before you got to Ohio,
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I found as I was doing my research on Sparty Chino was how you were a little 165-pound nose tackle for this
Yeah,
football team that won 2 state titles, and
right.
that was a fun read. Um, how did you even end up playing defensive nose tackle?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Wheaton is a football powerhouse,
Right.
and like we had such a strong feeder program, and the coaching staff there, Ron Muhich, my head coach, he built a program like a university, right? Like we had coaches on our defensive staff. We had coaches that had played in the NFL. Our defensive coordinator played in the
Whoa.
CFL. He like had all the records at Baylor before RG3 was there, right? Like he just surrounded us with such high level coaches. Like we were just so well coached. Just a bunch of like suburban, like mostly white kids under 200 pounds. Like they had no business winning the games that we did, but we were just so disciplined and well coached. And I guess like the story of me playing nose, it just comes down to like I wasn't very fast. I obviously wasn't tall, but like I played with a pretty fierce competitor. Like I was pretty ferocious when I played. Like I hit hard, and like I just never gave up on plays, but like wasn't quite the linebacker or the running back type athletically. But I could hand fight from wrestling, and I had a coach my sophomore year. He's like, I'm gonna put you in a nose tackle. I'm gonna see what you can do. I'm sitting here like I'm about to get absolutely destroyed. But like I had a pretty good get off the line, and I mean I was just like hitting like arm drags and like lat drops, and like I'd like get double teamed. I'd literally just like hit a knee slide. I'd get underneath the double team and I'd make a tackle in the backfield. And I was like, this can't keep working, but like it did. And I just attributed it to one, wrestling, but then two, just phenomenal coaching. Like we spent so much time as high school kids watching film that we were just always so well prepared. Always were so assignment sound. And yeah, we were like a top 10 team in the country my senior year. Yeah, it was pretty special. Like I got introduced to what like a high level program should look like due to my football team. But yeah, pretty funny stuff, right? Like I remember I came back to overtime after my senior year, football season ended, and I'm pretty sure Coach Geezy looks at me and goes, "Hey, Sparty, you've won state twice in a sport that you're not even good at. How about we win one in wrestling now?" And I was like, "All right, sounds good. I can do that."
Yeah, true. Did you get any looks for football?
Yeah, I did. I got some like it was Division III, obviously, right? I got some like Division III football looks, and I was just telling the coaches, they're like, "Hey, like, we want you to," and God bless D3 athletes. Like, I just, I couldn't do it. Like, I couldn't do that. And they wanted me to wrestle and play football, and I'm like, I'm gonna catfish you if I tell you that I'm gonna be a good football player at the next level. And I'm like, this stuff's not gonna keep working. Like I'm way too small to continue to play line. And they're cool. What about safety? I was like, I run like a 5 flat 40. I'm like, you're not gonna like what you get out of me playing safety. So it was kind of funny to tell coaches like, hey, like spend your time recruiting better kids. Like I'm not gonna be the guy that you want. But yeah, I got some looks.
Wow, man, this close, man, to potentially being a football player. Who knows?
Yeah, my best friend Dan Vitale, he played in the NFL for 6 years. So it was me, my buddy Mark Savinock, like we called ourselves the trifecta. It was just like I attribute a lot of high school success to not only my folks, but like those two guys, because I mean Danny played football at Northwestern for 4 years, was a 4-year starter there, captain, was drafted, played in the NFL for 6 years, played for the Browns, the Packers, and ended up with the Patriots. And then COVID came and he retired. And then Mark was a D3 All-American. Like it was just, I surrounded myself. I was very fortunate to I don't call myself good. I just call myself like incredibly fortunate. Like I had really good people around me that kept me on the straight and narrow. Like I can be a little bit of a wild child at times. And I had guys that like loved me enough as friends to tell me like, hey, you got to do this, you got to do that. Because having your parents, having your coaches say it's one thing, but like when your best friends can look you in the eyes and say, hey, like you got to do this, or I want you to make this change, well, you know that they care about you. And not a lot of friends do that. So I was super lucky to have those guys. But with Danny, talk about Danny, like that close. Like I saw what an NFL football player was, and like I knew that was not me.
I just wanted to drop that in there because that, like I said, when I was looking at, you type in Sparty Chino Illinois wrestling or Sparty Chino wrestling and something pops up about 165-pound nose tackle winning a state title in football, and you're like, hold on here. So
yeah, I mean, we had I had 3 kids that I played with that played in the NFL, and
wow,
Titus Davis, Corey Davis, and Dan Vitale, and like you see those guys, and you're like, I mean, it's a testament to our program and then just the hard work that those guys put in. But yeah, I mean, it was some fun times.
Yeah. All right. So real quick, back to a little bit of your time at Ohio before I want to talk about Marmion
Yeah.
lastly. But so you were a four-time qualifier. I
Yep.
mean, not a lot of people can say four-time qualifier because that freshman year is always tough, you
Hmm.
know. And it only gets tougher as you get older because you get more banged up, you have more tread on the
Yeah.
tires, stuff like that. But what made you feel prepared and ready and able to qualify as as a redshirt freshman, given the fact of all the things that we talked about with mental hurdles that you had to go through and
Yeah.
not feeling good enough?
Yeah. I mean, I think my redshirt freshman year is a pretty bad time to talk about how to qualify because I qualified in the worst way possible, and that was through a wild card. Right. I went 0-2 at conference, and I lost like an overtime match to Luke Smith, who was like around a 12er, multiple time qualifier, and then lost another match that I probably was better than the guy, but I lost that next match. I go 0-2, but my freshman year I had some big wins, right? And again, like it's a credit to Greenlee for getting us that tough schedule. I think I had two top 10 wins, which that with a couple other like ranked wins like in the 20s will kind of give you those strengths of schedule. So that's how I ended up making it my freshman year. But I think when I made it there, I drew Walter Peppelman in first round. He was a two-time All-American from Harvard. And I ended up pinning him in the first period of that. I took him to his back twice, like took him down with a duck under Metzger, called it the Sandman. It was like my little special takedown. But I hit him with that Sandman move twice, and I pinned him. And
Wow.
uh, when you get a win like that over a two-time AA, you're like, man, like I really like one the NCAA. I always told my mom, I was like, hey, they needed me there. They told me that, hey, Sparty, you didn't make it through conference, like, but you got all those good wins. We need you to come to our party. So like, I kind of went into that tournament pretty free, to where like I was able to take out a guy that was statistically much better than me. But yeah, I don't know. I just think like the strength of schedule, some of the big wins that you have, like Joel getting you in a position to win. That kind of helps you out a lot, man.
Yeah. And then your junior year is where you had the real success, the most success, I should say. You made
Yeah,
the blood round.
right. Yeah, I mean, and again, like to my point earlier, right? Junior year was probably my most turbulent season, in regards to not health, right? But it was just like not putting those matches away, right? Just kind of letting them skate by. But yeah, then ended up being a blood rounder. Then lost a real tough match to Brian Murphy from Michigan.
Yeah.
But I'd say like freshman year, you have a lot of success, like, make into the tournament, beat some real good guys. Sophomore year, really struggled with injuries. I had a completely torn PCL in my knee. I broke my thumb and I broke my foot. So I remember
Jeez.
when I went to the NCAA's, like my trainer would spend 30 minutes taping me up before I'd go compete. And she looked at me one day and she goes, I spend around $35 of tape every time I tape you. And I'm like, so sorry. Like it was just like you're so banged up. And then your junior, then you kind of get to that point, like, all right, qualified once, qualified twice. When we're in high school, is you're getting better every single year, right? Like you're placing
Right. Yeah.
higher, you're having better, like more wins, less losses. But in college, it's like they just keep reloading. Like junior year comes and you get Imar, and like I ended up wrestling him at the tournament. And then like my senior year, you get a Jason Nolf who comes into the equation. You get a Tyler Berger that comes in, and like you wrestle and lose to these guys, and you're like, man, like I'm just not that good. And then like again, like, but it's just in the perspective. You don't realize that they're going to be 3-time, 4-time All-Americans, 3-time national champs. So I think that's just the one thing about college wrestling that's so hard is it doesn't get easier ever. Like the competition just continues. And to your point, right? Just staying healthy is the biggest thing. Like how do you stay healthy? How do you stay on top of it? And those who do it, man, those are the ones that collect those bracket boards.
Yeah. And so your senior year, um, after the turbulence of your junior year, what then was your senior year like?
Senior year, was, what I learned my first, like your first 3 years, you kind of wrestle. I always wrestled like high flyer. Like I was pretty reckless. So my body took a lot of damage over those first 3 years. Junior year and senior year, I kind of figured out how to like maintain health, right? Like I was living in the athletic trainer's office, like finding to keep myself like healthy and safe. My senior year, it's a little bit of, to your point, you asked me about it in high school. Like I really felt it in my senior year in college of this is your last chance, right? Because even in high school, I knew that like maybe I don't win state. Like I knew I was going to wrestle at the next level. Like I knew it was like, I was pretty certain though that my fifth year in college, that was going to be my last year ever wrestling. So, that was, a point to where I was close the year before. I think I was like preseason ranked 6th in the country. And you really start to put pressure on yourself. And then not only the pressure, but my 5th year, if I have one regret, it's I probably should have gone up a weight, if not 2. I was cutting from 190 down to 57. And
Wow.
yeah, we always joke about me, Cody. Like Cody cut a lot too, right?
Yeah, he did.
He was just a better competitor than me. And I think his style was a little more suiting for him. Like Cody he was incredible on top. And he could really slow down the pace and not get himself too tired, right? Like try shooting it on that guy's hips. Like you're going to be a mess. So guys were very hesitant to shoot on Cody. He'd get on top, ride people out. Like he had the perfect style. And I don't want to ever discredit him because he was so freaking tough and so freaking good. But like we just had different styles to where like my style was offense, 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 offense. And that was the year that I couldn't get to it because like I just didn't have juice. I didn't have juice to go. And when you're struggling with like your conditioning, the thought is, well, I just got to train a little bit harder.
Yeah.
And then
Yes.
I was doing bike sprints, getting in extra workouts, trying to, but like what I retroactively probably needed was I probably needed to rest a little bit more. And it took a lot out of me. I think that's like the one thing, again, like it's why I still coach today, because you look at the wrong training approach. Like I probably needed to, again, take it off. Definitely, I think one thing is like the nutrition aspect. Like I never looked at how many calories anything was or what was in it. I just looked at, hey, how much does this weigh?
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, oh, cool. That's only going to weigh 1.5 pounds. Cool. I'll have that Chipotle burrito. And I'm like, did I need to put all that in me? Right. So from a nutrition aspect, I think a lot of that, plus the way that I wrestled, it kind of all caught up to me my last year. And then on top of it all, the pressure of this is it, this is the end. It was a tough kind of last year. So still was solid, right? Like I had probably close to 30 wins, went 2-2 at the Nationals, but it was not how you like to end it. And I think that really kind of messed with me for a bit, probably for like a year or 2 afterwards. I kind of like didn't know who I was anymore. Like your whole life is focused on wrestling. And I started working at Amazon after sorry, I'm all over the place here, right?
There you
But
go.
like I graduate, get my MBA, and I'm looking to get a job. I end up getting a job with Amazon, but they didn't need me until like February of the next year, because like at Amazon we have our peak season. We try not to hire people through that time because it's pretty hectic. And so I just
you graduated in May? Because I was going to ask about this anyway. Yeah. So this is actually perfect. So you graduated in May and you didn't start at Amazon until February. So that's what, 8-9 months or so. I don't know, just off the top of my head.
Exactly. Yeah. So I like, so, you're kind of all disappointed with like how your season ends. And then like, then you're like, all right, now I got to go figure out life. And I get jobs. Like, we don't need you. So I'm like, what am I going to do? So again, it goes back to the guy, Joel Greenlee. He puts me on staff as a volunteer assistant for like the interim, like for the first semester. So I stayed at OU. I continued to like coach, train. I would like take the kids to opens on like the vans and stuff. Still hung around while trying to get my feet into it. But I'm at Midlands, that's that winter. And this was like going to be my last tournament with the guys. And then I was going to go move back in with mom and dad and get ready to start my big boy life. And Donnie Reynolds was the coach at Marmion Academy, and he brought all the kids over to the Midlands to watch a competition. And Donnie coached me at overtime as well. So he got to talking to me. He was asking like, "Oh, how's life? What's next?" And I let him know. I was like, "Hey, man, I really don't know what's next. This is my last day here. I'm moving back in." And he's like, "Hey, do you want to come help out at Marmion and like kind of work out?" And again, wrestling's all I really knew. And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So ended that season, went into like the Marmion room the next week. Was supposed to be like 8 or 9 weeks, turned into 9 years, right? So but yeah, I think like, you finish that and you kind of have your coaching run. And I coached at state that year. It was really cool. Like I was able to coach college, then stop coaching there, and then coach at high school. But then it's over, right? And the wrestling's done again. So that was like the real realization of like, all right, now what? Then I was working. And when I started working at Amazon, I was working night shift. I was like a manager on the nighttime. So I was working Wednesday to Saturday night shift. And I just have no social life, living with my mom and dad. I'm single. I was like, I didn't know what purpose was. And then I ended up meeting my then friend, now wife, Nicole, and she had just graduated. She had graduated from Ohio. She had started like nursing, and she played soccer at Ohio. So I knew her as like a friend out there. But, I really credit her to kind of getting my life. I'd say I was never off track, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like I credit her to kind of giving me new purpose to like what I was. Like I was more than Sparty Chino, the wrestler, right? Like wrestling was always a part of me, but she like finally gave me purpose to who am I as like what makes me special outside of that, and gave me a lot of insight to that. So she came in at like the perfect time of my life, because I was very, very much confused at like what direction I was going.
Yeah, how did you reconnect with her? If you moved back to Illinois, so
Yeah.
I guess I'm just curious, like.
Yeah, no, you're good. There was like a group of like Chicagoland athletes, that like some football players, basketball players, or myself, that like I think everyone kind of struggles with it, especially if you go to school elsewhere and you come back, like you're like, what is this now? Like I'm not with these people every single day. I'm like back home, or I'm living alone. And I think a group of like Ohio athletes wanted to connect, and we all wanted to get together and hang out, and the plans fell through. And like I always thought that Nicole was smoking hot, so I was just like, I just messaged her on the side. I shot my shot, and I was like, "Hey, you want to get together and hang out?" And she was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And ended up like actually like I was working nights, so like our first date, we are gonna go like to the dog park with our 2 dogs. And I ended up like sleeping through the date because I was working nights. And I was like, "I'm so sorry. Let me make it up to you." I was like, "Let me take you to a Cubs game." And she's like, "Okay, cool." And she lived like right next to Wrigley. And I think she was just kind of taking it like, whatever, let's go hang out with this kid. He was kind of goofy, kind of funny. But yeah, then she, fell under my charm and fell in love with me. And now we're married with 2 kids. So here we go.
Okay, so she's from Illinois originally.
Yeah. She's from like the north suburbs.
Gotcha. Okay, and probably did not know her prior, just because she's from
No,
Illinois.
imagine that. She didn't know who Sparty Chino was,
I know what. Gosh.
Yeah.
But it's funny. She fell under your charm. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, when you sleep through the date, God, you got to go big after that, and yeah, take her to a Cubs game, sit in the bleachers,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, it worked. I mean, she was the perfect person for me. She was a nurse, so she knew like working crazy hours as well, and she's kept me on the straight and narrow. And like every goal that I've ever had outside of, I always tell my wife I needed her in college, because she was the person that like, I mean, she's just an unbelievable partner. Like any goal that I ever have, like she's not okay with me not achieving it, like based off of like lack of effort or whatnot. Like she keeps me so accountable, so honest, and like she's also there to hear me if I'm not, not feeling confident in myself, and she reminds me who I am. So yeah, big ups, Nicole. Love you.
All right. So you've been working at Amazon ever since, huh? So
Yep.
how did you wind up, I guess, at Amazon to begin with? Because now you're what, a GM, general manager?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so
So
how'd that work
yeah,
out?
I had a friend of mine that I grew up playing football with, and like as I went home, like summer post graduation from Ohio, and this is like prior to me like being a volunteer assistant. Like I was really like, man, I don't know what to do. Like school ended, I got this MBA, I have no work experience. The only experience I have is like, taking someone down, and Amazon's really cool in the sense that like they hire these like young university hires with like pretty strong like strong backgrounds and or like like impressive like resumes or whatnot, but like they'll take you in, and like what they really like is like athletes, they like veterans, they like people that have like that type of leadership to push a team.
Mhm.
And my buddy had referred me. I'd applied, got the interview, but it was really cool to come in working on I was working night shift, but I was leading a team of like 100 people, and I was 23 years old, and I had like 100 associates that reported to me. And like Amazon does a really good job of like taking you through leadership training, taking you through some role play scenarios, and then like ultimately they don't really baby you for all that much. You kind of get into the line of work after like 3 or 4 weeks of training, and then you either sink or you swim.
I was
And
just thinking that in my head. I'm like, hey, it sounds like sink or swim now, bud.
yeah, and I mean like like we have a lot of different venues for people to go through at Amazon, some in operation, some more a corporate route. And Amazon does a good job of like when you come in and like maybe you're struggling, like, hey, maybe this might be a different avenue for you. So like the ops role for me, it was so competitive. It was team dynamic, and I fell in love with it. Just being able to lead a team like that was huge. And again, I kind of go back to my folks, like thinking through my dad working 2 jobs.
Yeah.
These people, they have kids that are my age, and I saw a lot of people that like, they came there and they needed that job. Like no one wants to work Wednesday to Saturday night, but you're doing it for the money, you're doing it for whatever, for benefits, for like we help people pay for career for their college. Like there's so many different things, career advancement. But people come to work for a reason, and I always took it like upon myself that hey, they're gonna come here for something. Like I want to be able to provide it. Like I never want someone to go home, eat dinner with their family, and be like, yeah, Sparty was a real jerk today, right? Like it just I take too much pride in knowing where I stand there. So took it upon myself to never be the reason that someone doesn't get what they want. And like I think that mindset has really helped me. And you attribute a lot of that to wrestling, of just like that team dynamic of like, hey, if we lose, we're not going to lose because of my lack of effort.
Right.
And that's able to help me kind of promote and grow to where from working in the night shift at the back of a building to leading my own building of several hundred people with like 800,000 square feet. Like again, massive responsibility, big site, like one of the biggest companies in the world. Like I do not take that lightly. So a lot of pride in that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I mean, when you say Amazon, I'm the general manager in Amazon. I mean, that is a massive company and fiscally and all that. I think the one question a lot of people might have, knowing that you work at Amazon, is when are we going to have the drones that everywhere? That was supposed to be promised. Where are they at?
I'm not sure the status of the drones right now,
Oh
but
my,
I work in
oh
a
my gosh.
in the last couple of years, I've moved over to the Amazon Fresh sector, and I can tell you this: that like the next thing for Amazon is Amazon Grocery, and if you're not getting your grocery through Amazon, you really should look at doing it, because that's my little plug. But we're going to expand the grocery, and I've been putting a lot of time and effort there the last few years. But
Nice.
some pretty big things coming for us.
Right on. And lastly, let's just want to touch on Marmion because
Sure.
I had actually somebody on, Joe Silvestro. I talked to him
Yeah.
fairly recent, I'd say. Um, and yeah, he was at Marmion for a while. And gosh, you guys just are coming off capturing your first title
Hmm.
in the history, the first team title in history. I mean, what after 9 years there, and you've probably been climbing this mountain, and it
Sure.
just seems like just you're putting in all the work, and sometimes you slide back down. I mean, what was it like to finally get to the top this past year?
Ooh, that's a good one, man. And I've kind
Has it
of
sunk in yet? I guess. Let me ask, has it sunk in yet?
not really, right? I've kind of been going back and forth with it for the last like 3 days or so since we won. Um, but I think to go back, like you bring up Joe, like Joe and Scott, Joe Silvestro, Scott Jaffe, like those guys, Eddie Greco, like those guys built Marmion like 15, 20 years ago. And the amount of work that they put in to start the program, like it cannot go on. Like a team that didn't have wrestling to being in not only a state powerhouse, but like big on the national scene, like it comes in from the time and energy that those like few guys really put in. So Joe, especially like Joe's son Angelo, we grew up wrestling with each other at overtime. So I know that like Joe really vouched to get me onto the program, and he put a lot of trust into me. As like him and Scott, they're so busy in their line of work that they've kind of handed over some of the responsibility and reins to myself, Tony Cerncione, and Nate Fitzenrider. So what it feels like is you're really happy for the team, but like I'm really happy for those guys that came before that, like we didn't get the job done, right? Because there've been a lot of people throughout the years that said we couldn't get it done here for one reason or another. But I think these last 5 years, we've really built something special off of the foundation that the guys who started the program gave us to jump off of. So I'm struggling to kind of figure out how it feels, but maybe vindicated a little bit. Like we got it done despite a lot of naysayers out there, but it's all right. I'm really more so proud of just the trust of the kids and the trust of their parents. People can say what they want about public schools versus private schools, but like when you go to a private school, you're not guaranteed anything, right? Like the coursework at our school is second to none. Like the academics are so challenging on our kids. And I think the proof's in the pudding that like that's tough coursework. It helps. We have so many kids that have wrestled in the Ivy League at our team. And we really pride ourselves. Like, yes, like we want to win team state titles every year, but ultimately we want to build men for the future. And we want to give these kids, like, we want to use wrestling as a vessel to get these kids into the best programs in the country. So when you got guys wrestling at Stanford, at Princeton, at Northwestern, at Harvard, year over year, at University of Chicago, wherever it might be, right? We're always going to put our kids in the ability to like better themselves for life. So just overwhelmingly just proud of the work coming to fruition to then also just tag to it team state champions.
Yeah, I think that's what Joe talked. I think I talked with him about that, or he may have mentioned it, was the programs that your athletes go to after high school because of the academic coursework that they go through is like you were saying, second to none. I mean, they are going to some high established institutions that are very academically proud and sound. Like that is, I mean, so
our goal as a staff is to put our kids in the best opportunity for life. So whether that's in the current state, getting them a state championship, getting them success at Fargo, a Super 32, again, that's like the obvious thing, right? But it's more so like what lessons are we teaching them to succeed, to provide for their families down the road? Like how can we teach them to be the best father, to be the best husband, to be the best worker, right? And that's like it's a pretty, if you look at it like that versus like, let me just bring some kids in here, teach them some sick leg riding, some awesome scramble defense. Like, yeah, I mean, that's one thing, but like, I think with us, maybe it's taken a little bit longer to get to the top, but we've done it off of building strong charactered men and not losing sight of our faith with God to get us there. So that's that's the roadmap that Joe and Scott laid out for us.
Is that at times, I'll let you go here soon, but is that at times sort of maybe intimidating to carry the torch that somebody set the precedent so high before you that now it's like, all right, here's the keys, here you go, here's the torch, like you're saying, and you have to continue off of what the standard that they built that is so incredibly high.
I think you don't want to, like, again, like, you don't want to disappoint anyone, and I think that's where we're like, Joe and Scott are still, they're still present and involved, right? Like, we joke around, we call them the boardroom, right? Like, when we go out to those guys, like, we got ideas, like, we're going to run it by them, and they have so much experience, not only in the wrestling world, but like in the business world on like how to approach these types of situations. So, not a lot of pressure because, like, they've put so much trust into us because of the work that we put in with the kids. And they know that, like, win or lose, whether we get a title or not, that, like, we're ultimately doing the right things. And regardless of what the results are at the end of the season, and like, we haven't gotten the results that we want at the end of the season until this past weekend, right? But like, they've still been nothing but incredibly supportive and helped us build this team.
Yeah, and as you look over your career in wrestling as a whole, what kind of words or emotions come to mind? I mean, you've been through a lot of ups and downs from
Sure.
little kids, high school, winning a state title, being a qualifier, not quite, ending up on the podium, to now being a state title head coach. I mean, that you've been through a lot. Do you, as you look at your impact on the sport, does anything come to mind for you? Any emotions or feelings or thoughts?
The thing for me is just looking back at like where our kids are now, right? And I stay in touch with a lot of the guys that I've coached over the last 9 years, right? And I'm just incredibly grateful to see them building their lives off of like the lessons that we've taught them, whether they're starting their own families now, whether they're being successful in work, whether they've graduated in school, going into law school, whatever it might be. Like, it's it's you're just so proud. I don't know. I mean, I try not to think much more about like what I've really done, because like what I did is done, right? But I just look at wrestling still as like it's my duty to give back to these kids in this sport because of the guys that helped set me up. The Joel Greenleys, the Sean Bourmets, I even talk about my high school head coach Ryan Ferguson, right? Like what these guys did for me to set me up. I feel like I'm just forever indebted to it. So I don't really know if I've had much time to really reflect on it too much. I'm just so proud of those guys that I see that, like, I don't really see my work as ever done in this sport. And it's the same thing. Like, I have a son, right? I have a 19-month-old son. Whether he wants to wrestle, whether he wants to play competitive badminton, like whatever he wants, like I just know that when I look at him or I look at these other kids that are coaching or whatever they're doing, like, I just look at it, it's like my duty to be a mentor to people, to like, what's the point of my life if I've had all these ups and downs, if I've had these mental battles, if I'm not giving back to people so that they can be better. Like, and don't get me wrong, like, I'm an incredibly flawed individual and I got a lot of things that I got to tighten up today, tomorrow, and next week, right? And I'm always like evolving and learning. But when I think about wrestling in particular, I'm just always thinking back of like, how can I give back to this sport and the folks that are in it?
Yeah, I think you're doing that. You've done that, and like I said, and you're doing that, at the highest level you possibly can,
Yeah.
so that's got to be something you got to be proud of, the last thing I have for you is when I talked to Cody Walters, he said that you were the type of person that when you were going through college, you always had a six-pack, no matter if you were 190, 157, no matter what, you always had a six-pack. You were just that type of guy. So I want to know, currently, do you have a six-pack?
I have a six-pack in there somewhere, right? Some days it's a little better than others, but I'll make sure to post a photo here in the next couple months when we get ready for summertime. I will have a six-pack Cody Walters. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah, he was just saying that, he was just saying, telling some stories about, he would be cutting weight or whatever, and he's like, Sparty's over there in his six-pack, just like this individual who just always looked like cut or always in shape, I think is what he said. So
Yeah,
I just thought I'd ask to see.
I'm in shape. It's a different kind of shape, but I can still roll. I can still move. I'll get right, guys. Don't worry. All right.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Special thanks to my guest, Sparty Chino, for taking the time to sit down and chat with me. Cover art created and designed by Kristen Gill. Please feel free to rate, comment, and subscribe to the podcast. And you can also check me out on Twitter, Instagram, and my Facebook page to hear more of my content. And don't forget to check out my website at letstalkwrestlingpodcast.my.canva.site. And as always, be sure to tune in to hear the next guest of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Take care. See you next time.